What is the evidence of a free mind? There is one word. Here it is. Peace. What is the evidence that the stronghold is gone? Peace. What is the evidence that you now have received God's truth? Peace. What is the evidence that your mind is not held hostage? It is peace.
Now, am I trying to win the favor of men or of God? I want you to think about that. Am I trying to win the favor of men or of God? Do I seek to please men? And it frightens me to think. It actually frightens me for people to think how many people miss their destinies and never are fulfilled. Because if you don't do what God intends for you to do, then you're always going to feel like you're missing something.
In the absence of answers, what grows? Could be either one for you. Could be cynicism. Some of you have gotten really, really mean over the last 2 years. Because in the absence of answers, you have allowed anger to grow.
You completely disown everything that you're doing to contribute to your career, not going to another level. You know better, but you don't want to do better. This is uncomfortable, but I'm telling y'all the truth.
The people in your life, as good as they are, there are no perfect people. There is no perfect boss, no perfect friend, no perfect neighbor, no perfect spouse. Give people room to be human. Quit expecting them to perform perfectly all the time.
People who are open to the possibilities, no matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. That's who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to people who want to zone out on alcohol or drugs. No.
Keep your purpose firm. Would you like to have peace in the right direction? Then keep your purpose firm. Now that brings up a natural question I have to ask you. Do you even know God's 5 purposes for your life? Because clearly knowing your life purpose is essential to enduring. It's essential to lasting.
I hate pretending that I'm interested when I'm not that interested. I hate big group settings. I'm really more of the kind of one-on-one, small group, deeper, more intimate conversations kind of gal. And so before big parties, I just kind of get this like, ugh, do I really want to do this? Because I'm not the kind of person that likes what's required to go to a big networking event.
The world is characterized by ignorance and malevolence and danger. Always, always, always. It's an existential truth. And then you might ask yourself, well, if that's the case, how might you best conceptualize that?
I don't care how it started. I don't care what it looks like. It doesn't matter what happened up until now. You will finish with favor. Confess it. I will finish with favor. Again, I will finish with favor. You sat down. The problem with you, well, you can't receive the favor.
When I got started, let me tell you what I didn't have. I didn't have experience. I didn't have knowledge. I did not have a model. I did not have a mentor. I did not have a plan. I did not have a fellow traveler. I did not have resources. I did not have money. I did not have a growth environment. But I got started. You don't stop or not start because of what you don't have.
A gift opens the way. If you figure that out, it opens the way. You can read all the rest of that if you want to, but your gift opens the way. That's the part I saw. Cool. Then the gift opened the way. I got this lifestyle I got now because my gift opened the way, not my passion. I ain't made $1 playing basketball.
If you're not proactive, if you don't choose the right attitude, then the wrong attitude will show up. Instead of going to work sour, dreading the day, feeling unappreciated, you would show up with a smile, grateful to have the job, knowing that you're not working under people, you're working under God, that He's keeping the records. That's what allows God to change things. Now, I'm not telling you that you don't have a reason to complain, but I am saying that it won't do us any good at all. So this is about being smart enough to help ourselves get to the place where we want to be. Because you know what the word complain means? Part of the definition of the word complain means to remain. I'm going to talk to these guys back here.
Forget what can't be changed and focus on the future. Until you learn to do this, you're going to be unhappy much of your life. Because you hold on to the habits, you hold on to the hurts and the hang-ups, you hold on to the grief and the guilt and the grudges, and that causes so much unhappiness in your life. You got to let it go.
As an overall rule, I do not like procrastination. You need to get things done. But if you are going to rest, that is one thing that you should procrastinate on. That's the one thing I want you to put off until tomorrow. And if, when tomorrow comes, you still feel like you need to rest or you need to take a break, then okay, take it.
The way we alter our life is, sure, we got to alter our behavior and our relationships and our circumstances, but the only way it's permanent is that we alter that governor, that thermostat, and we start to believe we're worth 85 degrees of life, 95 degrees of life, 110 degrees of life. And there's ways we can alter that. You put yourself in circumstances that are demanding of you past what you think your capacity is, and when you succeed at them, you build a new water line.
My mentor got me started on my library when I was 25. I got one of the best. If you saw my library, you would be impressed. I haven't read everything in it, but I feel smarter just walking in it, right? My library. I was smart enough to buy it all. Now I got to be smart enough to read it all. Now jot this down. When you do read, you have to sort through what you read and decide which is valuable to try.
When the world feels upside down, you always have the power to make it right. When one chapter ends, you always have the power to write a new one. When, you feel like nobody loves you, you have the power to learn how to love yourself. And if there's one thing that COVID-19 has done, regardless of whatever devastation it has caused in your life, is it has forced us all to experience the great pause.
If you can get a day off where you've worked hard and you've accomplished goals, that day off will be so sweet. When I work hard and I sit in front of the TV, I enjoy the shit out of it, honestly. I'm more of a workaholic than I should be, probably. If the balance was, I probably should relax more than I do, but I never feel like I earned it. But that's part of the reason why when I do feel like I earned it, I can enjoy it. It's because I am more connected to the idea that I need to accomplish things.
You are going to have to let go of some certain attachments to familiar things that are blocking God's favor. I don't mean you're going to leave the city. I don't mean you're going to flee the state. I don't mean you're going to move to Canada. I mean that in this moment, you are going to decide what has been in your backyard all along that is bigger than what you're going through and living in right now. That my focus, listen, my focus is my favor.
And if you say, my gosh, John, I'll tell you right now, I'm doing a lot to develop myself. I've got a personal growth plan, and I'm intentional in this, and I'm doing this on a daily deal. If you could say that to me, then I'd say, hey, we're in good shape here. We're in good shape, because that's the key. What are you doing to develop yourself? And by the way, the reason that's first is not because you want to be selfish. It's kind of like almost a selfish question. Person says, well, why do I start with myself? The reason you start with yourself is because you cannot give what you do not have.
What all my message is about some principles. Here's something I learned from a guy. The two most important days of your life, is the day you were born and the day you discover why. Man, that's a cool.
We can find someone else with the same skills. The real question is, do they have the attitude that's going to take us higher? They may be gifted, but a negative attitude will pull the team down. Your attitude is going to determine your altitude. It will determine how high or how low you go. Well, Joel, I've always been kind of negative, critical, condescending. That's just who I am. No, that's who you're choosing to be.
If you're going to complain about something, then don't bother praying about it. Well, don't patty cake. If you're going to clap. Think about that. If we're going to complain about something, then just don't bother praying about it. Do not fret or have any anxiety about anything, but in every circumstance and in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, continue to make your wants known to God. It doesn't say with complaining.
every time you make a decision, what we're talking about here is clarifying your values. Every single time you make a decision, you are basing it on unspoken values. You have a grid in your mind. You've never even thought about this, most likely, but you have a set of values in your mind, and every time you make a decision, I'm going to do this and not do that. I'm going to buy this and not buy that. I'm going to spend my time and effort and energy on this and not on that. You are showing your hidden values.
That doesn't mean that you don't need to get it to them ASAP and make up some corrective measures or lower the price or do something so that it makes up for the problem. But the worst thing you can say is, well, you didn't specify exactly what you wanted in the order, and therefore we couldn't get you what you wanted on time. Okay, we're never coming back for business again, and we're angry this whole time, and I'm going to short you money when we pay you anyways, if I pay you at all.
And begin to do it. It could be how often I'm going to pick up a book and read it. But you begin to stack things you commit to do, and then you deliver on them and you acknowledge them to yourself. You're in the process of building self-confidence. Why is that so important? Of all the athletes I coach, when my athletes are performing at their peak level, they're at their highest self-confidence level.
Primarily say, I'm the person responsible. And I will learn the necessary skills so that I can help people learn their skills. If I need lots of people to do certain things to build my organization, that is what I must have. But I've got to be the final backstop. I've got to be the final one that people can rely on.
But part of what I find personally is that when I resist, and I do resist, I resist what's actually happening when that's not the way that I want things to go. And so if you start complaining or you start bringing extra weight to all of the things that are going on, it's going to make it feel even more overwhelming.
I think we, as a species, owe it to ourselves to be honest with ourselves. That's the best benefit that we get from being around other people, is to understand the real information as they see it. And you can process that any way you like. You can put it through the filter of ego and personal circumstance and all sorts of things that make people have opinions that are biased in one way or another. But when you get past all that, if you really get to see how a person is thinking when they're honest.
Are you open to seeing the favor of God? I ask the Lord to do 3 things for us. Make us conscious of His favor. You gotta see it. To help us cooperate with His favor. Stop fighting against what God is doing in my life. And then the biggest part of all this, why I want to give my offering next weekend, to make me a conduit for His favor. I want that. Because this is the year of the Lord's favor.
And so I'm passionate about personal growth, because for that person who says, wow, I had an opportunity, I wasn't ready. If you're growing, you're always ready. Because after I intentionally started growing, I made a commitment to grow as a leader. I started writing. I became an author. I developed growth resources for other people. I founded my first company. I began training conferences. Everything I can think of that has ever been good in my life was a result of the fact that I started personal growth in my life.
But when you start preparing to move and to change, you got to understand that part coming with it. It's the haters. I'm going to move on because there's a time limit and there's a couple of things I want to do. When you're going through something, in order to go to the next level, to the next dimension, you have to break through the glass ceiling. But in breaking through a glass ceiling, there's going to be some bloodshed.
I can't stand my job, Joel. Traffic is so bad. My house is too small. I'll never get well. You know what that is? An old attitude. Some people have not put on a new attitude for years and years. They wonder why everything's a burden, why it's so heavy. It's their attitude. You let go of yesterday's disappointments, what didn't work out. You get your mind going in the right direction. I'm going to see the good today.
Do all things without grumbling. Yes, all things. Yes, that includes your thing. Can you clean your house without grumbling? Guys, can you cut the grass without grumbling? Can you drive in traffic without grumbling? Can you go to the grocery store without grumbling about high prices? It's a little too quiet in here for comfort. Now you see why a book on complaining wouldn't sell.
And I can tell you, I have learned to handle enormous amounts of stress, an enormous amount of tension. But I could not do it if I didn't rest my body, if I didn't take my day off, if I didn't, and don't call it your day off, call it your Sabbath. Call it your day off, you'll fill it with your honey-do list. All stuff I couldn't get done to try to use it to catch up on other stuff. No, it is a day of rest, relaxation, relationships, restoration emotionally.
Don't give in to the immediate gratification that is whispering in your ear. Shut that down. Do not listen to that little voice. Instead, go through the motions. Lift the weights, sprint the hill, work on the project, get out of bed.
You have this governor on your identity. So what happens is it's like a thermostat. Our lives get going. We start doing really well. If we're a 75 degreer and our life gets to 85 and 90 degrees, unconsciously we go, we don't know we're doing it. We start to cool life back down to get it back to where we're comfortable. The reverse is also true. When things start to go really bad and you're broke and you're struggling, you find a way to heat your life back up to what you think you're worth and you deserve.
The guy says, I want to be a great leader. Wonderful. The first thing we do is follow him to his house. When we get there, we walk in and check his library, number one. Somebody says, well, why check his library? The reason is because what a man reads pours massive ingredients into his mental factory, and the fabric of his life is built from those ingredients.
For the first time, look ahead and say, well, what do I want to go create? And 9 times out of 10, if you're discouraged right now, if you've got financial devastation, if you're facing something that is making this moment in time as hard for you as life was for Lewis and I in 2008 during the last recession, I beg you, ask yourself honestly if what you had is actually what you wanted.
You don't truly appreciate relaxation unless you've worked hard. And that is the yin and the yang of life. And I've said this to the point of people getting sick of it, but one of the worst decisions a man can make, I can only speak for men, obviously, is to be comfortable. I don't think you should try to be comfortable. I think what you should try to do is try to earn comfort.
You know, we cannot always avoid the pain that wounds us, but we can choose to not let it ruin the remainder of our lives. And I think that a lot of times people park at the point of their pain. How many people get hurt by their parents and they never really ever get over that? You might have somebody who was adopted. For whatever reason, their parents didn't want them. They weren't able to keep them. And they can spend their whole entire life trying to recover from that. Your entire life does not have to be ruined because somebody hurt you way back when, or last week, or last night, or God promises to heal and restore. I love Psalm 27:10. Even though my mother and father have forsaken me, the Lord will take me up and adopt me as his own child. Hallelujah.
You hear people say, Pastor, no one has ever felt rejection that I have known. I assure you, you're wrong. Jesus did. Jesus, the Son of God, the King of heaven, the Emmanuel, the God with us, the hope of glory, experienced your shame, and he experienced your rejection on the Roman cross. Spectators walked by and mocked the naked Savior who was hanging there in your stead and your stead and your stead. His mother was sobbing at his feet as he was being crucified between thieves. His trial was rigged. It was rigged by the Roman government, who started planning his execution from the time he gave his first sermon. He was hated by society. He was hated by the known church. He was called a liar, a demonized teacher, and a false teacher. He was totally rejected.
And Jesus did not die on the cross to give us the ability to cope. He died on the cross to give us the ability to conquer. Jesus was the most rejected man in the history of the world. But it never affected his decision making. It never affected his attitude or the way he treated people. And it did not keep him from accomplishing God's purpose for his life. And he's our example. All of us are going to be rejected. Every single one of us have been rejected. Rejection is our greatest scar. And it's our greatest control point. Many people are controlled their entire lives by the fear of rejection and the corresponding need for love and approval. And because of this, it changes how we live and make our decisions. It didn't change Jesus, but many times it changes us. It changes how we treat people. And it keeps us from accomplishing God's will for our life. Rejection wounds us, and it creates bitterness and aggression if we don't deal with it properly. Remember, Jesus hung on the cross and looked at the people who put him there, and he forgave. And when you have been rejected, the devil, what makes the devil so dangerous is his stealth. He doesn't present himself. It would be so easy to deal with him if he would just present himself, because we know that we have authority over him. But when you're dealing with the devil, many times you're dealing with a subliminal thought, and he put it there, and you didn't know it, and you think it's your thought. He slithered in a hard time. He slithered in a time that you were hurting and being rejected, and he spoke something to you, and it's in there, and you don't know it. But here are the lies that he speaks. You aren't worth anything. The reason people reject you is because you're not worth it. No one will ever love you. Why do you even try? You're defective. You'll never have anyone. You'll always be rejected. Something is wrong with you. People don't love you because God doesn't love you. You're unlovable and you're undesirable. You're a loser. You're always going to be disappointed. Don't let people inside because they're always going to be. People don't care about you. They just want to use you they want. I'm living for myself, and I'm not going to let other people hurt me. These are the little things that are in there, and they program us. It's a spirit of rejection. They program us, and because love is our greatest need, rejection is our greatest control point. And we go through life being rejected, and he speaks these lies into our spirit, one after the other, and then we're programmed. You see people that come out of a family, and one turns to alcohol, one turns to drugs, one turns to rebellion, and one turns to God. And it makes a radical difference where you turn.
And what Satan wants, of course, is for someone to hurt us, and then for us to be angry and bitter and resentful, have a chip on our shoulder, spend our life feeling sorry for ourselves, get into all kinds of addictive behaviors, and then spend our lives hating somebody else and hurting somebody else so they can then turn around and do the same thing. And then there it goes from generation to generation to generation. But I'm here to announce good news to you tonight, that if you've been hurt in the past, it does not have to go beyond you to anyone else. You have the privilege of speaking the name of Jesus and believing in the power of God to not only completely heal you and make you just as if it never happened to you, but to never let it go on to anybody else in your generation. And that is wonderful good news. When you've been hurt, when you've gone through something really, really difficult, and somebody comes to you for help, there's a whole new level of understanding and a whole new level of compassion that you can't give to anybody if everything is just a theory in your head and nothing that you've ever had to put to practice in your life. So sometimes one of the reasons he lets you go through things is to equip you and qualify you to actually be in his service and have the credentials to actually help people. Well, there's so many things we don't know. And we get so bothered by the stuff we don't know. We worry about it. We try to figure it out. We ask other people. We try our best to figure out all the things that we don't know. And most of the time, we only get ourselves more confused. Why don't we talk more about what we do know than what we don't know? We know that God loves us. We know we're going to go to heaven and we're going to live for eternity. And we know that all things work out together for good. You focus more on what you do know than what you don't know.
Base your life, number one, base your life on God's perfect love and what His Word has to say. I mean, I don't know who hates you, but I'll tell you, there's one person who loves you, and that's God. And you have to, the only thing that got Jesus through was God's love. Regardless of who rejected Him, He knew God the Father loved Him, and that's what He focused on. Hebrews 13, let your conduct be without covetousness, be content with such things as you have, for He Himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, I will not fear. What can man do to me? God says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. This not only means He won't physically reject you, He'll never turn His heart away. Forsake means turn His heart away. God has promised all of us there will never be a moment in all of eternity when He turns His heart away and rejects us.
Hey there, welcome to my channel Daily Motivation 2024. Today speak a gift opens the way. If you find that out, it opens the way. You can read all rest of it if you want to, but your gift opens that way. That's the part I so pull. That gift opened the way. I got this lifestyle I got now because my gift opened the way, not my passion. I made $1 paying back ball. If you not probiotic, if you don't choose the right attitude, that warning attitude will show up. Instead of going to work, shout, because good God will never leave you. During the day feeling unprobation, you will show up with a smile. Great to have the job, knowing that you are working.